Hi and welcome! In today's little video we are going to paint these delicate blue cornflowers in a loose and expressive watercolor style. This piece has a soft, slightly vintage feeling with gentle movement and just enough detail to bring the flowers to life. Before you begin, prepare everything you need so you don't interrupt your flow while painting. I'm using blues and greens from my Winsor & Newton Cotman student set, and I'm painting on 300 GSM watercolor paper with torn edges. If you would like to watch the full version of this lesson, including the preparation of the watercolor paper with torn edges and the full materials list, you can find the link to my Patreon in the description below. So let's begin. Step 1. First watercolor layer. My paint mixture is very watery in the beginning, which is perfect for this loose watercolor style. I begin by placing the flowers first. I start with the top flower, painting the petals loosely around the center and leaving a little white space inside. I want the flower to feel open, light and airy. Then I place the second and third flower. I vary the petals in thickness and intensity. In some places I use the belly of the brush to create soft, airy, transparent petals, and in other places I use the tip of the brush to add more pigment and intensity. Then I move to the green elements. Using a watery green wash, I paint the green base beneath the petals and connect the flowers with soft flowing stems. I also add a few small leaves and buds in a loose and natural way. At this stage, I'm not trying to copy the flower too precisely. I'm more focused on expressing its movement and rhythm on the paper. When the paper is starting to feel less wet and more damp, it is the perfect moment to reinforce the shadows and begin adding the first details. Here I'm using a deeper mixture of blue and green and starting to build more color and depth. At this stage, the paint does not spread as much as it did in the first step. This allows me to work in a more controlled way and slowly begin defining the flower. I also start suggesting the darker center and the small reproductive structures that give the cornflower so much of its character. Then I use a bit more concentrated pigment to add a few accents to the petals, stems and leaves. If the pigment feels too heavy in some areas, you can lift it gently with a clean damp brush or a kitchen towel. At the end, I use the tip of my brush to add a few delicate details, like tiny lines on the leaves and small darker touches inside the flowers. Try not to overwork it. Leave a little space for the imagination. Now let it dry. Once the painting is dry, take a moment to look at the final result and decide if it needs any last details. Remember that watercolor always dries lighter, so this is the moment to add a final touch if needed. Cornflowers are such a beautiful flower to paint in loose watercolor. They have so much movement and personality, and they work perfectly in this expressive style. Thank you so much for painting with me, and I'll see you in the next lesson.